Readers, so glad to be back with you reading some Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I know we had an awesome week last week. We had our Spirit Week. We dressed up in mismatched clothes, wore hats and crazy socks, and I hope that you all had a great weekend. I'm so glad to be back with you for another digital learning week and, of course, read alouds. We are almost getting close to the end of school. You have 4 weeks left until you guys are officially 5th graders. I'm so proud of all the work you guys are putting in. I hope that you are keeping it up. And I'm excited just to keep reading with you guys, okay? So we're now on chapter 13. It's called The Very Secret Diary. In chapter 12, we heard how Ron, Hermione, and Harry all took Polyjuice Potion in the hopes of talking to Malfoy and for him to admit that he is the heir and has been opening up the Chamber of Secrets. However, when Hermione took the potion, if you remember, she turned into a half-human, half-cat because she had grabbed a cat hair. So she had to go to the hospital. Ron and Harry had turned successfully into Crabbe and Goyle and found out that Malfoy is indeed not the heir. He is not opening up the Chamber of Secrets. So now we need to still figure out who is doing this, okay? So chapter 13, without further ado, I'm going to start reading. Hermione remained in the hospital wing for several weeks. There was a flurry of rumor about her disappearance when the rest of the school arrived back from their Christmas holidays because, of course, everyone thought she had been attacked. So many students filed past the hospital ring, trying to catch a glimpse of her, that Madame Pomfrey took out her curtains again and placed them around Hermione's bed, to spare her the shame of being seen with a furry face. Harry and Ron went to visit her every evening. When the new term started, they brought her each day's homework. "If I'd sprouted whiskers, I'd take a break from work," said Ron, tipping a stack of books on Hermione's bedside table one evening. "Don't be so silly, Ron. I've got to keep up," said Hermione briskly. Her spirits were greatly improved by the fact that all of her hair had gone from her face and her eyes were turning slowly back to brown. "I don't suppose you've got any new leads," she added in a whisper, so that Madame Pomfrey couldn't hear her. "Nothing," said Harry gloomily. "I'm so sure it was Malfoy," said Ron for about the 100th time. "What's that?" asked Harry, pointing to something gold sticking out from under Hermione's pillow. "Just a get-well card," said Hermione, hastily trying to poke it out of sight, but Ron was too quick for her. He pulled it out and flicked it open and read. "To Miss Granger, wishing you a speedy recovery from your concerned teacher, Professor Gilderoy Lockhart, Order of Merlin, 3rd class, honorary member of the Dark Forest Defense League, and 5-time winner of the Witch Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award." Ron looked up at Hermione in disgust. "You sleep with that under your pillow?" But Hermione was spared by answering by Madame Pomfrey sweeping over her with the evening dose of medicine. "Is Lockhart the smartest bloke you've ever met, or what?" Ron said to Harry as they left the infirmary and started up the stairs toward Gryffindor Tower. Snape had given them so much homework, Harry thought he was likely to be in the 6th year before he finished it. Ron was still saying he wished he had asked Hermione how many rat tails you were supposed to add to the hair-raising potion when an angry outburst from the floor above reached their ears. "That's Filch!" Harry muttered as he hurried up the stairs and paused out of sight, listening hard. "You don't think someone else has been attacked?" said Ron tensely. They stood still, their heads inclined towards Filch's voice, which sounded quite hysterical. "Even more work for me, mopping all night like I don't got anything to do. No, it's the final straw. I'm going to Dumbledore." His footsteps receded along the out-of-sight corridor, and they heard a distant door slam. They poked their heads around the corner, and Filch had clearly been manning his usual lookout post. There were once again on the spot where Mrs. Norris had been attacked. They saw at a glance what Filch had been shouting about. A great flood of water seeping from under the door of Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Now that Filch had stopped shouting, they could hear Myrtle's wails echoing out of the bathroom walls. "Now what's up with her?" said Ron. "Let's go and see," said Harry, and holding their robes over their ankles, they stepped through the great wash of water to the door, bearing its out-of-order sign, ignored it as always, and entered. Moaning Myrtle was crying, if possible, louder and harder than ever before. She seemed to be hiding down her usual toilet. It was dark in the bathroom because the candles had been extinguished in the great rush of water that had left both walls and the floor soaking wet. "What's up, Myrtle?" said Harry. "Who's that?" guggled Myrtle miserably. "Come to throw something else at me." Harry waded across to her stall and said, "Why would I throw something at you?" "Don't ask me," Myrtle shouted, emerging with a wave of yet more water which splashed onto the already sopping floor. "Here I am, minding my own business, and someone thinks it's funny to throw a book at me." "But it can't hurt you if someone throws something at you," said Harry reasonably. "I mean, it'd just go right through you, wouldn't it?" He had said the wrong thing. Myrtle puffed herself up and shrieked, "Let's all throw books at Myrtle because she can't feel it. 10 points if you can get it through her stomach, 50 points if it goes through her head. Well, ha, 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 what a lovely game, I don't think." Who threw it at you anyway? Said Harry. I don't know. I was just sitting in the U-bend thinking about death, and it fell right through the top of my head, said Myrtle, glaring at them. It's over there. It got washed out. Harry and Ron looked under the sink where Myrtle was pointing. A small, thin book lay there, and it had a shabby black cover and was wet, as everything else was in the bathroom. Harry stepped forward to pick it up, but Ron suddenly flung out an arm to hold him back. What? Said Harry. Are you crazy? Said Ron. It could be dangerous. Dangerous, said Harry, laughing. Come on. How could it be dangerous? You'd be surprised, said Ron, who was looking apprehensively at the book. Some of the books the ministry has confiscated Dad's told me about. There was one that burned your eyes out. And everyone who's read Sonnets of Sorcerers spoke in limericks for the rest of their lives. And some old witch in Bath had a book that you could never stop reading and just had to wander around with your nose in it trying to do everything one-handed. And, all right, I've got the point, said Harry. The little book lay on the floor, nondescript and soggy. Well, we won't find out unless we look at it, he said, and he ducked under Ron and picked it off the floor. Harry saw at once that it was a diary, and the year faded on the corner told him it was 50 years old. He opened it eagerly, and on the first page he could just make out the name T.M. Riddle in smudge ink. Hang on, said Ron, who had approached cautiously and was looking over Harry's shoulder. I know that name. T.M. Riddle got an award for special services to the school 50 years ago. How on earth do you know that? Said Harry in amazement. Because Filch made me polish his shield for about 50 times in detention, said Ron, resentfully. That was the one I burped slugs all over. If you'd wipe slimed off a name for an hour, you'd remember it too. Harry peeled the wet pages apart. They were completely blank. There wasn't the faintest trace of writing on any of them, not even Auntie Mabel's birthday or dentist 3:30. He never wrote in it, said Harry, disappointed. I wonder why someone wanted to flush it away, said Ron curiously. Harry turned to the back cover of the book and saw the printed name of a variety stone on Vauxhall Road, London. He must have been muggle-born, said Harry thoughtfully, to have bought a diary from Vauxhall Road. Well, it's not much use to you, said Ron. He dropped his voice. 50 points if you can get it through Myrtle's nose. Harry, however, pocketed it. Hermione left the hospital wing de-whiskered and tailless and fur-free at the beginning of February. On her first evening back in Gryffindor Tower, Harry showed her T.M. Riddle's diary and told her the story of how he had found it. Ooh, it might have hidden powers, said Hermione enthusiastically, taking the diary and looking at it closely. If it has, it's hiding them very well, said Ron. Maybe it's shy. I don't know why we don't chuck it, Harry. I wish I knew someone who did try to chuck it, said Harry. I wouldn't mind knowing how Riddle got an award for special service to Hogwarts either. Could have been anything, said Ron. Maybe he got 30 owls, or saved a teacher from a giant squid. Maybe he murdered Myrtle. That would have done everyone a favor. But Harry could tell from the arrested face on Hermione's look that she was thinking what he was thinking. What? Said Ron, looking from one to the other. Well, the Chamber of Secrets was opened 50 years ago, wasn't it? He said. That's what Malfoy said. Yeah, said Ron slowly. And this diary is 50 years old, said Hermione, tapping it excitedly. So? Oh, Ron, wake up, snapped Hermione. We know the person who opened the chamber last time was expelled 50 years ago. We know T.M. Riddle got an award for special services to the school 50 years ago. Well, what if Riddle got his special award for catching the heir of Slytherin? His diary would probably tell us everything, where the chamber is and how to open it and what sort of creature lives in it. The person who's behind the attacks this time wouldn't want them lying around, would they? That's a brilliant theory, Hermione, said Ron, with just one little tiny flaw. There's nothing written in the diary. But Hermione was pulling out her wand out of her bag. It might be invisible ink, she whispered. She tapped the diary 3 times and said, Aprecium. Nothing happened. Undaunted, Hermione shoved her hand back into her bag and pulled out what appeared to be a bright red eraser. It's a revealer. I got it in Diagon Alley, she said. She rubbed hard on the January 1st, but nothing happened. I'm telling you, there's nothing to find in there, said Ron. Riddle just got a diary for Christmas and couldn't be bothered filling it out. All right, I'm going to stop reading there. I didn't read as long this time, but this kind of is a very important part of the book. So they found this diary that was supposedly written by someone called T.M. Riddle 50 years ago, which is also when the Chamber of Secrets was opened for the first time. So maybe you're starting to make some inferences or predictions about what this diary is or who wrote it or what's happening. This is a exciting part that we're getting to, kind of figuring out what is happening with the Chamber of Secrets. So I hope that you join me again tomorrow. I miss and love you all. Make sure you guys are still reading at home. It's so important. And I can't wait to see the hard work you're putting in. So have a great rest of your day, guys.